When architecting your Swift app, you should think of how you're going to make it scalable and flexible. But when you do so, you need to compare architectures, and that means thinking about what is best for your application. This video hopefully will get you started on a service-oriented architecture and how you might combine services for networking, crash reporting, analytics and persistence, and create that app using this way of thinking, or at least giving you the option of doing so. Let's take a look. So the idea here is that you're kind of instantiating these services from within AppDelegate, and the examples here are the network service, crash service, analytics service and persistence service. In my example, the network service is my own network module, and the analytics service and crash service could be something like Firebase or Google Analytics. And generally speaking, these services should come from separate frameworks and be well tested, so you're not testing them within your app. So then you can start to think about your application in terms of layers: an application layer, a service layer, and a data layer. So this service layer is in between the application layer and the data layer and is giving you things like, well, analytics. So then your data is going with your view controller through that service layer, so you're monitoring what's happening within the app. And it's this idea of modularization and the way that you can have a scalable app, that you can actually build this up over time, add in services, remove services, making sure your whole app is routinely tested and works efficiently. So these videos give me an opportunity to speak in more detail than perhaps even writing about these little example apps. So for example here, I just have a app that just downloads from an endpoint, nothing too special there. But it's this part in the AppDelegate, we have these services, and it's a lot like how, say, Firebase works. It just injects something into your main app, so you don't need to worry about it too much. So I have the persistence service, analytics service, and crash reporting service. But in reality, it's kind of more likely you would want something to work to be entirely tested, so you'd have it as a separate framework, like my network library here, which I know is internally tested. So in a way, that follows the same structure as, say, Firebase or Google Analytics. It's injected at the beginning of your app, and it kind of doesn't matter how it works internally. You know it's tested. You don't retest Firebase within your own app. So you inject the services in a service layer, and then you're able to use it, say, in your view controller. And we're actually accessing through the view model, say the network manager, and everything just works, and we don't have to retest that network manager. The other files here are just an example of how things might work. They don't actually do anything. See, it just says print persistence because it just opens that particular service and runs it. So it's all about setting up that layer. And I really would recommend you look in the repo at the code for this, perhaps download it yourself, have a look, experiment with it, because it's the way you can get to grips with how things can actually work. So it's more this conceptual idea of things in layers. So I certainly think there's opportunity in exploring a service-oriented architecture and thinking of how you layer an app. Would I use this in a production app? Maybe not, but I think considering how to use it really gives you something in your toolkit and gives you something to consider. If you want to explore more about it, why not look at my article in the link below, and maybe see you next time.